Good morning. It's almost Chanukah, and today's mimer is the Alter Rebbe's explanation of what the deeper significance of what Chanukah is. It's on page Lamed Beis, meaning the lave, the heart, in Torah Ohr. Very special page. And here we go. Inyan Chanukah, hine kovu hanes b'neiros. They established, Chachamim have enacted a Yontif of Chanukah to remember the miracle, but there are many ways that you could remember it, and they established it that it should be done with candles specifically. Mashenkin b'shar nisim b'Pesach b'Tiyas Mitzrayim te'echlu matzah sepurim imishta v'simcha ke'edagolus she'yagufni gamkin gufni b'Mitzrayim v'chanavim v'hamam v'kish lashmet chulu u'shlom laves. By the other nisim, by Pesach, which we're remembering in Tiyas Mitzrayim, you have to eat matzah, or purim, you have to have a meal. Rejoice. The reason is because it corresponds with the goals that we experienced. So by Mitzrayim, it was a very physical mitzvah, a very physical golos. So you had mortar and clay, and we had hard work and labor and torture, etc. That is a difficult golos, and the way it's a physical one, and the way that we celebrate it and remember it is through a physical thing, eat matzah. Times of Haman, what did Haman try to do? The Hashmid Ladek, he tried to destroy and kill the Yidden. So that's also a physical thing. The Shalom Lava is to take all of their loot. So that's why the way that it's experienced is through a party, through rejoicing and so on, by Purim. But when it came to Chanukah, when the Yidden were sitting, dwelling on their land, when they didn't go out of their land, we weren't exiled from Eretz Yisrael. They weren't trying to kill the Yidden per se. They weren't trying to enslave us. Rather, they wanted to make the Yidden forget their Torah, and to make them or get them to transgress the laws of Hashem's will. So because it was a spiritual war, therefore they established it about the candles based on the pasuk mitzvah v'Torah Ohr, because a candle is a mitzvah and Torah is a fire, and therefore because the battle or the hardship or the goals was against Torah mitzvahs, we celebrated through a spiritual way, which is candles. And the path of life is reprimands of Musar. So up until this point, it makes perfect sense. The war during the times or the problem during the times of Chanukah was not one of a physical war. They weren't trying to kill the Yidden. Yes, we had a war in the end, as we were trying to defeat the Yevonim, the Greeks, but generally speaking, that it's not what they came for. It's not like Haman that showed up and he said, I want to destroy all the Yidden. I don't care if you're frum or not. I don't care if you do Torah mitzvahs or not. I don't care if you're assimilated or not. I want to destroy. But the story of Purim, for example, or Pesach, was trying to destroy the Yidden. To understand this whole concept, the pasuk of this pasuk, we gam sefer dekra. This pasuk of ner mitzvah v'Torah Ohr requires explanation, and also the end of the pasuk where it says v'derech chayim de'eches musar. You're saying like this: there's Torah Ohr, ner mitzvah Torah Ohr, and then you add to that and you say, that we know what the path of life is, de'eches musar. Reprimands of morality, we'll call it a musar. Really, you just explained Torah. It's repetitive. Torah is Torah, and ner mitzvah Torah Ohr. So now you're coming and telling me that there's another thing called derech chayim is musar. What does that mean? Is it derech chayim umavada Torah mitzvahs? What possible path of life is there besides Torah mitzvahs? Hamur l'mayla pasuk, which is mentioned above in the pasuk. Why is there anything else even to mention? This that he compares the mitzvah to ner and the Torah to fire. Who move on is understood. The fact that you compare a mitzvah to a candle and Torah to light, that makes sense. Why? Because just like a candle is called a candle because of the oil, A candle of oil is a candle of wax. So we get it. Even though oil on its own does not have air, technically speaking, oil doesn't have fire. Not only does not have fire, but it'll extinguish fire. If you put fire inside the oil, like if the flame falls into the cup of oil, it'll get extinguished. Nonetheless, through him, from him and through him comes a fire, a flame of light, which gets held on to the wick, with a little bit of oil which flows after the wick, it will bring that about. Because when the oil finishes, the light gets extinguished. So oil is an interesting thing. On the one hand, it produces light. At the same time, it's not light, and it actually extinguishes light. But if you pull a little bit through the wick, then it'll make sure that it'll cause it to light.
Eventually it goes out.
Yeah, that's the proof that the fire is coming from the oil. Similarly, literally, is the mitzvah Hagam Shuratzin HaMelech, even though this is the desire of the king. V'li shum tam v'das, without any reasoning and explanation. You can't grasp the mitzvah. Why does Hashem want me to put on tefillin? That's Hashem's desire. Nonetheless, through her and in her comes forth the light of Chachma, which is Torah Shebal Peh. Because Torah comes from Chachma, and the whole wisdom and understanding of Torah Shebal Peh. It's only to understand and grasp the reason of each mitzvah. Each Masechta according to its inyan. Okay, so similarly, Torah Ohr, just like Ohr it's this interesting thing. It comes from the oil, but it's not the oil, and the oil can actually extinguish it. Similarly, in mitzvah, you can't really understand it, but the Torah is coming to explain it, to give us a insight into it, to understand how to do it, to understand what it is, and so on. To understand this deeper in the Avodah of the Eibishter, the pasuk tells us, the morning when he prepares the neres, the Kohen Gadol and Beis Hamikdash, to light the menorah, that's when you bring the ketores, and Bein Arbayim again, you do the ketores. Well, I have to understand. When it talks about preparing the menorah, so in the morning menorah, he calls it behetivai. You're making the candles good. You're preparing them, but it's a way. The literal meaning is you're making them good. And the Bein Arbayim, but in the afternoon, by the mincha one of the evening, you don't say preparing, making the menorahs good. You say behalais when you lift up, which is another way of saying it. It's fine. But why the inconsistency of behetivai versus behalais? Candles go up. We speak about it many times, and especially Al Teva brings that the neshama is compared to a candle. It's going upwards. Candle always goes up, so it's appropriate to say behalais for lighting a menorah. But why do you change it around? Knesset Yisrael, Makar Neshamas Yisrael, Nikraim B'Shem Menorah. Knesset Yisrael, which is the source of the Neshamas of Yidden, are called Menorah. V'hi Miksha, and it's a block of gold. Shekol Yisrael He Ba'achdos. All Yidden are Ba'achdos. He Mischalekas Neshem Menorahs. Okay. To understand this, you have to appreciate the Knesset Yisrael, the source of the Neshamas, are called Menorah. Okay. This menorah that it's called is a miksha. It's one block of gold, and all Yidden are united as one block of gold. But then that block gets separated into 7 branches, 7 candles. Also, Klal Yisrael. There's different types of individuals, or different neshama personalities, but it all is part of one unit, one block of gold. Because generally speaking, because in a more specific way, there are 600,000 sparks. Every spark divides into 600,000. As explained in Tanya. More generally speaking, of 70 people that came down into Mitzrayim, So you have one block of gold, which is 600,000 neshamas, but more specifically, you have 70. More close to 70. Klal, in general, of the general, Shiva Nedes is called 7 candles. In the Aren, Shashvina the Matroniso, Aren Kain Kilayin. Aren, who is the attendant of the queen, so to speak, is Aren Kain the Kilayin. He's one of the Shiva Rayim, the 7 shepherds. Farnes and Lashpim, which they are sustaining and giving Elikus to the Yidden. Sheya'iru be'er ha'ava, they should shine with the light of Ava, the light of Yisbarich, to be flamed up to the Eibishter, the Kleis HaNefesh, Yishal Heves Olam Me'elah, and Kleis HaNefesh, like a flame which goes up on its own. Kayim mitzvahs v'ahafta, to fulfill the mitzvah v'ahafta. So basically, Aaron HaKohen is giving in to the Yidden this Ava, that's this Emunah Neibishter.
Why didn't we bring Pesach in the beginning of the month? Something similar?
Yeah, we're trying to compare. How come Chanukah and Purim and Pesach you celebrate in a very physical way? You make a suda. You have to party. Pesach you eat matzah. Comes Chanukah, you say light candles. What is that? So he says, there is an inyan to have increased meal, harbe success b'suda, and there is an inyan of oil and so on and so forth. But the mitzvah that Chachamim said, this is how you celebrate Chanukah, like the bracha, the rabbanon, and so on, is through a menorah. Why don't you celebrate like with a party like Purim? What's the difference? The difference is because what are you celebrating? By Purim, they try to kill you. It's a physical thing, so you celebrate in a physical way through a party, a suda, mishta. Pesach also, they try to enslave the Yidden, so you commemorate it through eating matzah in a very real, physical, practical way. Chanukah, it was a spiritual war. They weren't trying to kill Yidden. Fakert, you could live, just join our way of thinking. It wasn't, we want to kill you unless. No, we want you to be part of the Yivanim. We want you to assimilate. Just don't do mitzvahs because Hashem said so. So the way that you celebrate the victory of mitzvahs, that type of victory of Torah, is through candles. Why? Because the pasuk says, "Ner mitzvah v'Torah." He's explaining what's the whole idea of a ner and a mitzvah. So he says, candles are an interesting thing. That when it comes to the oil, on the one hand, the oil produces the light, but it's not light. It actually could extinguish light. At the same time, it's just bringing it out. The deeper concept of Chachma, of the Eibishter, you can't understand. But there's a flow through Torah which explains to you each mitzvah. Do you know the mitzvah? No, you don't know the mitzvah. You understand the mitzvah? You don't understand it. The reason behind it you can't know. It's the Eibishter's Chachma. A human being can't grasp it. Now, to understand that deeper, he says, what does it mean in Avodas Hashem? So every Yid is part of one block of gold. This block of gold that we have is like the Menorah, it's Miksha. From there it breaks down into 7 branches. These 7 menorahs are like 7 individual, really there's 600,000 sparks of neshamas. But more specific is the 70, or more general, is the 70 neshamas that came down to Mitzrayim. And if you trace those back, it's really 7, right? 7D is an enumeration of 7. To understand that, he says, let's look why when it talks about Aaron HaKohen lighting the menorah, there's 2 l'shainis. There's Beitivai and Beha'alais. In the morning when he's preparing the menorah, it says when he makes them good, when he prepares it. In the afternoon when he does it, it says Beha'alais. What's the difference? Why is it a different way? So he explains that Aaron HaKohen, the one that lights the menorah, is one of the 7 shepherds, and his job is to infuse the Yidden with Ava for the Eibishter. And the way that Ava is supposed to work is that we have this Ava which is almost naturally coming out from ourselves, going upwards to the Eibishter. That a Yid, the Hashem of a Yid, wants to get closer, he loves Hashem, he wants the Eibishter. What time is it?
8:56.
Just 1 second. Well, the Kaim mitzvah is to fulfill the mitzvah of Hafta, which we accept upon ourselves by Kriyashma. It should be this way truthfully. To believe implanted in the heart of every single Yid. A person on his own, because he's coarse, he's material, and he's enclosed in very physical things. On your own, a person is a gashmi. So if not for the Eibishter helping him, he would not be able to have that ava is pulling towards the Eibishter. What's the help that the Eibishter gives a yid to pull a little bit away from his gashmis and go into the ruchnis? It's the ava. There is an ava from Hashem, which comes down to the yid, and that pulls the yid towards the Eibishter. That's the concept of Ba'alais and Beitivai, which is the idea of the person serving the Eibishter.